Welcome back to my channel, Lomzy Sews. If this is your first time coming across my channel, make sure to subscribe and turn on all notification bell icon. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make this two-piece shirts and trouser. If this is what you like to learn, make sure not to skip any part of this video, because this is going to be a very simple tutorial. You see the fitting of the trouser. I will show you all of that. So I have here 3.5 yards of Sunray fabric, but you can see mine is short sleeve, so make sure to use at least 4 yards or even 4.5 yards so that you're sure. So first we are going to be drafting this on the pattern paper. I'm going to go up by 1.5 inches and take the crotch depth and the length of the trouser. The crotch depth I'm using is 13 inches. I'll mark it. Also, the length of the trouser is 41 inch. I'm going to mark it. I'll go ahead and square this line out. So just the crotch depth and the length of this trouser, that's the only thing I'm marking. I didn't mark the hip line. It's really not necessary for this, because this is a palazzo trouser. On the crotch extension, I'm going to mark the hips divided by 4 plus 1 inch for ease. Remember, this is just on my pattern paper. When I'm cutting on the fabric, I'll add all the sewing allowances. So I'll just go ahead and connect these straight. Next, I'm going to mark the crotch extension. So from the center line, I'm going to go out by 3 inches. If you're medium, you can do 2.5. If you're on the plus size, you can do 3.5 inches. I didn't mark the knee line, so I'm going to go ahead and also mark the knee line. I used 23 inches. This is for us to have a guide on how to shape the pant trouser. So I'll go ahead and rule out this line. Next, I'm going to take whatever I have from the crotch extension to the side seam. I will divide that by 2. And then from that midpoint, I'm going to mark towards the side seam. I'm going to mark 6 inches. Also on the other side, I'll go from the midpoint, I'll mark 6 inches. I'll do the same thing on the hemline. I want this to be a straight palazzo pants, so I'm making this equal on the knee line and the hemline. So I'm just going to go ahead and connect this straight to the knee line, both on the inside leg and the side seam. So I'll go ahead and connect this to the hip line, to the crotch line like this. I'll blend this in later, but first let me just do this. Also the inside leg, I'm going to go ahead and connect this like this. Then for the crotch curve, I'm going to go ahead and use my ruler to connect it like this. So this is it for the drafting of the front panel. I'm just going to go ahead and cut this out. So remember, I have not added any sewing allowance. When I'm cutting on the fabric, I will join all the sewing allowances I need for this. So I'll go ahead and use this for both my front and my back. So this is it after cutting it on the fabric. Next, we are going to add the sewing allowance for the elastic. So whatever that is here, I'm going to mark that on my cut it out. That will be my joining allowance for the waistline. If your elastic is 1 inch, use 1 inch. Mine is 1.25 inches. That's why I'm cutting out on 1.25 inches. Guys, this fabric is really hard to work with, so you have to be patient to cut it. It's very hard to cut. So I just took my time. I tried all I could. It was too difficult. So I keep lifting the fabric up. That was the only way that it's easier for me to cut out. So you will see how I'm raising the fabric up like this to cut it out. That was the only way I could cut it out. If I had a rotary cutter, that would be very, very nice to cut it with. So bear with me. I just kept pushing it up and cutting it. So I'll add all the sewing allowances and cut it out. So after battling with the front, I'm going to also cut out the back. So for the back, from this center front, I'm going to go in 2.5 inches, and then I'm going to add the 1.5 inch and 1.5 inch again for crotch extension. So I hope you understand. So I'm going to connect this to the waistline. So here I added 3 inches after going in by 2.5 inches. So I'll also add the extension for the back. I added 3 inches here. If you're on the plus size, do 3.5. So I'll connect this like this to the crotch extension for the back and then go in this way as you're seeing me do. So I'm also going to add sewing allowance to the side seam here. I hope you understand what I did. So I'll go ahead and cut this out. So we are going to go ahead to sew this. I'm going to sew here 1/2 inch. Also the same thing to the front. So after sewing it, this is it. I'm going to place this right side facing together. First of all, you're going to go ahead and sew the side seam. So I'll sew here 1/2 inch and also align this other side and sew away 1/2 inch. If you want to add pocket to this, you can add pocket before you join the side seam, and then you're going to sew the inside leg. Like I said, the fabric is difficult to work with, so sewing it, some machines will have issues with sewing it. If you want to sew it and you don't have weaving machine, then you go ahead and use this sewing trick that I will show you. Just place your brown paper on it and you sew it. Some machines would be jumping, if you understand what I mean, but some it might not jump. So if yours is jumping and you don't have industrial weaving machine, then you go ahead and use this trick to sew it. So just cut out pieces of brown paper, place on your sewing allowance, keep placing it on your sewing allowance and sew it. This was how I placed all pieces of what I'm sewing, both for the shirt, everything. So after sewing it, you go ahead and remove the paper. That way it's easier. But if you have a weaving machine, you go ahead and use that. So this, I'm going to be using this elastic. What I have here is 29 inches and the width is 1.25. Remember I said that. So I'm going to go ahead and close this like this. And then I made mark on all the 4 points. So you're going to align this on your pant trouser and sew it. So I'm going to place this on the waist line like this, drag it and make sure it's equal to the markings I made, and I'm going to weave this place. So after weaving it, I'm going to turn it like this and sew it. This is it after sewing the weaving. Can you see? Then next thing, I'm going to also place it like this and sew at the tip here. So next we are going to mark for the shirt. So I'm going to come down armhole 10 inches and then the length of the shirt. Go ahead and do the same thing. It's a free shirt, so It's just the armhole and the length of the shirt that I'm marking. Then I'm going to mark the shoulder divided by 2. Mine is 8.5 inches. I'll go ahead and square that down to the armhole line. Next, I'm going to mark the shoulder slope. I'll mark 1.5 inch shoulder slope. And then for the neck width, I'm going to mark 2.75 for the neck width. I'll go ahead and connect this like this. And then for back neck depth, I'm going to use 0.75 and also connect it with a curve like this. For the front, I'm going to mark 4 inches for the neck depth and connect it also like that. Then for the circumference, I'm going to do the bust divided by 4 plus 1 inch. Remember, I'm not adding any sewing allowance to this until I'm sewing it. The other thing I've added is ease allowance. To mark the armhole curve, I'm going to come down from the shoulder and mark this 1/2 inch in for the front. I'm going to connect this like this for the back and then go in the 1/2 inch to mark for the armhole curve for the front. So this is it. I'll go ahead and cut this out. Remember, I have cut for the front and the back the same thing, so I have not added any sewing allowance. I'm going to use this to cut out for the front and the back. So when cutting it, I'm going to add 1/2 inch sewing allowance all around and then hemming allowance, and also cut out the front and add 1/2 inch to the front. So for the sleeve, I'm going to mark the sleeve cap of 3 inches, and the length of sleeve would be anything you want. Remember, I made mine 10 inches because I made mine to be short. If you want yours to be long, you go ahead and mark the length of your sleeve minus the cuff length. So here I'm going to mark my sleeve round divided by 2 and connect this diagonally like this. Mark the midpoint, and I'm going to mark the sleeve curve like this. Then for the length, for the hem, you're going to divide your ribs divided by 2 and mark this straight like so, if you're making yours a long sleeve. But for mine, it's going to be a short sleeve, so I'm going to make the length of mine to be 10 inches like I showed you earlier on. I'll cut this on the fabric. I lost the footage where I cut and sew that, so if you're just going to add this and cut it out and join it, that's all. So after joining mine, this is how it is looking, as you can see. Next, I'm going to sew the button stand. So I have the fabric for the button stand like this. This is on fold. You're going to close here and then sew this on this place. Make sure to sew the both sides. So after sewing it, next is for us to make the collar. So you're going to place your neckline like this to take the measurement. First, you're going to take the measurement of the button stand, and from the button stand you take the neckline width. So this is what you're going to use to cut the collar. So whatever you have gotten there, remember it was on fold, so you're drafting yours on fold also. Whatever you have gotten there, you're going to place it here and mark it, and then you're going to extend it up like this. Then you're going to take the width of the shirt collar, both the collar stand and the collar itself. Mine is 4.5 inches, and then you're going to mark the length of the butt of the collar stand. Mine is 1.25. I'm going to mark that here. and then I'm going to divide whatever I have here by 3. 1/3 of it, I'm going to mark it. I'll square it up to this line like this. From the center front, you're going to go up 0.25 and connect this like this. After connecting it, extend it out. And then whatever you got for your button stand, you're going to mark that here. Mine is 1.25. I'll go ahead and connect this in a curved manner like this. Then here I'm going to go up 0.5 inches and connect it like this. I'll go ahead and also extend this 1.5 here, or 1 inch. I made 1 inch, yeah, it was 1 inch I used. Then I'm going to connect this like this. I'll go ahead and cut this out. The collar, shirt collar is ready. Just cut it out. And we are going to place that on the fabric and sew it. So I'm separating the collar stand and the shirt collar. To cut this on the fabric, I'm going to add sewing allowance to it and cut out. So this is it. I added 1/2 inch all around and I cut 2 pieces like this. So first I'm going to go ahead and sew the shirt collar. I'm going to place this like this and cut this out. I added interfacing to the fabric, one side of the fabric. So this is it after sewing it. Also for the collar stand, you're going to place this like this. I also added interfacing to one side. Then you're going to sew it and turn it over the other way, and then you're going to iron that. I have a full tutorial on how to do this, so I'll drop that. Next, I'm going to go ahead and join this to the neckline. After joining it, turn it over like this and do a stitch in the ditch. After sewing it, this is how it's looking. Can you see how the collar is relaxed? With this, we have come to the end of today's sewing tutorial. If you learned any new thing, let me know in the comment section, and make sure to give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't. And then I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.